Now it's time to hear the stories of Utes in their own words. This is Utes Insider presented by Pepsi. Here's your host, Mike Legasholt.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show, and it's being brought to you today by University of Utah Health, the official healthcare provider for the Utes and you. There's only one you. Be treated that way. Visit uvuhealth.org/Utes. Well, during our 2021 Utah Athletics Hall of Fame ceremony a few weeks ago, Eddie Johnson was among those inducted. Eddie was a two-time honorable mention All-American running back at Utah from 84 to 88. His career record of 3,219 yards stood for 31 years until Zach Moss overtook him as the all-time rusher in 2019. Eddie, no question, one of Utah's all-time greats, and he's been involved in some wonderful humanitarian projects in recent years. He is currently mentoring small business owners, professional and amateur athletes, educators, and students, and his company, Gold Rule Mentors, has helped raise money for a housing project for the homeless. He's done some great stuff. Really enjoy working with him. So I thought, you know what? It'd be great to have him come on and talk about his career and just what he's doing since he left the U. Well, as the weekend played out during one of our events, I also met one of his former teammates who was here with him, Greg Holder, who played with Eddie from 85 to 86. He was a wide receiver for the Utes. He was in the NFL for a couple of years when his college career ended, and now he sort of found his way into a career as a clothing designer, a sketch artist, and for the most part now he spends his time producing glass art. He's done some great work for celebrities in the entertainment field. A lot of his work has been designing glass arts of athletes. His stuff's amazing, and he will have some work featured at the Ron McBride Legacy Foundation Gala here October 2nd at the downtown Marriott City Creek. So check that event out if you can. It's for a great cause, and I thought it'd be fun to have Greg come on and talk about something unique. He's been able to combine his career in athletics and his love for art, and it's done very well for him. And since they were teammates, I thought, you know what, let's have them on one show. I think Eddie and Greg will have some fun stories to tell about Utah football at a time when it was really starting to draw some pretty good talent. They were ramping up to become what the program has become today in the late 80s. Two-time All-American running back Eddie Johnson and wide receiver Greg Holder, our guests on Utes Insider, in just a moment.
To hear more episodes of this show and other Utah athletics podcasts, search for them on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Now back to more of Utes Insider presented by Pepsi.
And welcome back to the show. Utes Insider brought to you by Pepsi, the official soft drink of Utah Athletics. Well, pleased to be joined now by one of the all-time greats in not only Utah football, but Utah athletics history. His rushing record stood up 31 years before overtaken by Zach Moss a few years ago. Had a chance to meet this gentleman and work with him during our Hall of Fame event a few weeks ago. Eddie Johnson, the all-time leading rusher in Utah football history for, again, 31 years. On the phone with us from California. Eddie, thanks for joining us on the show.
Oh, my pleasure, Mike. It's very nice to be here, and it's good to hear from you.
Let's talk about the Hall of Fame weekend, first of all. You know, I've talked to athletes over the years as I've worked with that event, and it seems like the more time they get away from campus and their pro careers that they have, then the more they appreciate that event, the chance to come back for everyone and get on campus and reconnect and be a part of a special weekend. That's one of our highlights of every single year. You know, Eddie, looking back at that enshrinement ceremony September 1 and the Weber State game the next night, just your highlights from that Hall of Fame weekend here earlier this month.
Oh, it was a glorious occasion, man. I couldn't put it in, dreamed about it being even better than what it was. My goodness, what the University of Utah has done to this program, I just tip my hat off to the administration and all that has been involved and all the coaches for winning. But we are just a well-established and organization to be reckoned with. I mean, the facilities look great. I was so impressed with the student body, the people, just everything there. I just had a great weekend and just opened my eyes to what's in store for the future.
You know, I know you spent a lot of time, Eddie, in Salt Lake living. You're now in California. When was the last time you came back to campus before that Hall of Fame event?
Oh man, it's been a few years. I did come back. Let's see here. The year before Zach Moss broke the record, and I was able to meet with him.
Okay.
Just before he broke the record, and I just there was a brief meeting with him, and said hello to him, and it's just a great kid. But it's been about 3 or 4 years before I saw it the last time. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing how much things have changed the last decade, the last 4 or 5 years. Even I know your son Chandler played for the Utes from 2010 to 14, so you were around the program quite a bit. But before I get into your career, Eddie, I mean, you came at a time when Utah football was not what it is now. We were in the WAC. We were just hoping to have winning seasons. To win 6 games at that time was a great year. Now the Utes in the Pac-12, 10-win seasons are regular for us. We've won a couple Pac-12 division titles. As you've watched this Utah football and athletics program entirely grow, Eddie, from a distance, just your impressions of where things were, where they are now, and your thoughts on all this has happened in the last 30 years or so.
Well, I tell you, we came so far. We were a mid 500 team in the WAC conference, which wasn't a conference that anybody really paid attention to. As a matter of fact, I remember Brett Musburger, the award-winning announcers, calling us the wacky whack of the West or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember that because we ran duck offenses. We did so many different things, and our games were 56-48. It was
right.
just a crazy conference, and nobody really paid attention to us. But we came a long way. As I said before, it's just amazing. And you're right. Unfortunately, we wasn't able to get the recruits that these big these big conferences got. I came here because of Mark Pierce, who was a coach, and this guy just was a father figure to me. I mean, if you needed a recruiter, he was the right guy. He just smiled the right way to make my mother and father feel comfortable. Just said the right things, even though all the other offers I got were USC, was Notre Dame, Nebraska, all these other clubs. And then little old Utah came into the picture. And even when I signed with Utah, my whole community, everybody that knew me, Utah, and then they started talking to me. They said, "Are you LDS?"
Yeah.
I just went up there with the morning. And at that time, I was a 17-year-old kid, didn't even know what an LDS person was. I wasn't familiar with the religion or anything. So it's no, man, it's a great community. I mean, great people were up there when I took my visit, and I think I'm going to go to Utah. And I just stunned everybody because of the other offers I had. And, I came up here, and it was everything I thought. I, was a freshman All-American, ran 4,000 yards my freshman year, and, just went from there. And you just tell this program was going places. Rick Majerus was the basketball coach back then. We were just, we had a lot of room to grow, and we definitely went to the right places. Absolutely.
Eddie, looking back at that roster at that time, I'd say about 1/3 of the kids coming to Utah to play football were JUCO transfers. You came from high school, but about 2/3 to 3/4 of that roster was California natives. I mean, some Utah players were there. Utah football in high school wasn't at the level it is now then. So they used to rely on a lot of California kids coming in. So you mentioned offers from USC, Nebraska, the big names. You came here, and obviously I'm thinking your thought process was, hey, I can go to Utah and be the man right away. I've got a chance to get some carries and make a difference. Was that sort of your thought process as you came from California? Hey, I can go there and kind of be the guy from day one, as opposed to go someplace else and waiting my turn.
Well, there's a funny story to that. I think I've told once before. It's all because of my brother. I have my older brother he's 8 years older than me. So I just grew up idolizing him. He's the one that actually introduced me to the game of football. When I was 6 years old, we would watch, Saturday morning cartoons. And then after that, Ohio State game or Michigan or USC Notre Dame game would come on.
Right.
We only had like 4 or 5 channels at that time.
Yep. And the game of the week was about it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then we would go outside and throw the ball around. But with my brother, he took it seriously, and he became a blue chip All-American out of high school. I mean, everybody in this California area knew who he was. He was the next Earl Campbell. And Woody Hayes came to our house, and all the people that I saw on that Saturday morning, all the coaches that I saw on that Saturday morning when I was 6 years old, ended up being in my living room.
Wow.
When my brother was being recruited, Bo Schembechler, John McKay, Woody Hayes, I met them all.
Wow.
And my brother decided to go to Ohio State. I
Okay.
mean, this kid was everything in California, and he goes to Ohio State, and I never saw him play. I
Yep.
was right there. The Ohio State would play. They would be there on Saturday mornings, and I'm here in California, and he never got on the field when I saw him. And so that played a huge part to me. It doesn't matter how good you are. It's the opportunity, and, where you go really matters. And so when it came down to it, I had Nebraska, uh, can't think of his name right now, but he was a Heisman Trophy winner for Nebraska at the time that I was taken out. Gosh, it will come to me. I apologize not remembering his name. But anyway, he took me around, him and his brother took me around. It was very impressive. USC, Notre Dame, all these places. But Utah came and I felt good about it. I felt I can really play here. They had some good running backs here, but I felt that I can really make a name for myself here and I can do it right away. And I came here and it just worked out just as I thought.
Visiting with Eddie Johnson, two-time All-American for Utah football back in the mid to late 80s. Well, Eddie, let's talk about your career. You come in year one, 1984. At that point, Chuck Stobart was the head coach and had a pretty good season, 6-5-1 in that 84 season. You had, I believe, 7 guys made all conference that year. So it was a pretty good squad. And you came in from Santa Maria High School in California, and right away you were an impact player as you wanted to be when you came to Utah. That's one of the reasons why you came to this school, and over 1,000 yards your rookie year. In fact, you led the nation's freshman rushing yards that season, the first rookie in Utah history to go for 1,000 yards. Just talk about your expectations coming in for that 84 season versus how it played out your freshman year, Eddie.
Absolutely. And Mike, I have to say it was Mike Rozier was
Yes.
the running back for the Nebraska
There you go.
Cornhuskers. I knew it would just come right to me.
Thanks for coming up with that, because I was racking my brain as well.
But yes, when I came in to university, I believe they were 5-6 that year.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't look at the records. I didn't look at the roster. I just looked at what felt good to me at that time. And I would have, if I would have done it today, I would have done things a lot different, because yes, you need to know, who is blocking for you. I mean, how big are these guys? Who's the coach? Who's coaching these guys and what level? So there should have been more to factor, but I just didn't have anybody to talk to about all that. It was all new to me in this system. And so when I got there, we had some studs on that offensive line. Dave Colity, he went to, I believe, San Francisco 49ers, and we had an All-American that was on the line too. That was blocking for me, and I apologize. I can't remember everybody's
Carlton
name
Walker
this time, but yeah, Carlton Walker.
Right.
Yes, and unfortunately, Carlton passed away, but he was an All-American. That Kevin Reach was on that line and was a great guy out of Atlanta. But those guys were studs, and those guys really got me those yards my first year. And when those guys left, I guess I would have to say, and Gary Anderson came as well, and he was absolutely a stud. My freshman, sophomore year, he was absolutely a stud. And after that class left, I don't think we had some great guys, and they were scrappers. And they really worked hard, but they were really undersized. I mean, my offensive line, I remember with Mike Murray and Mike Fifinger, those guys were 230 pounds,
Wow.
Going up against 290 pounders, our center was 250 pounds going up against a 200 or 300 pounder,
Right.
And so we just didn't have the size, but we had the scrappers. Those guys were very, very active, but, we were definitely outmatched in a lot of our games. So, and that's the difference of going to a bigger school and getting those 5-star guys, and we got 2 and 3 guys, but just really worked hard. And so from that first year when I came there and I saw the talent that we had. And all we just needed to do was just put it together. We had a great quarterback in Mark Stevens. And I just fit right in to that program. And I think that year we went 6-5. Of course, BYU was the monster in that year or in that division.
Right.
But we turned it around a little bit and went 6-5 that year. And that's because we had a great line and these guys put it together. Absolutely.
You came in during a time, Eddie, when the coaching staff wasn't as stable as it is now. I mean, Kyle Whittingham's been here a long time, or Remire came in, Ron McBride before him. We've had pretty good stability the last, 3 decades or so. That wasn't the case then. So Chuck Stobart was head coach from 82 to 84. Yeah. You mentioned that 6-5-1 season your freshman year, and then he leaves. Jim Fossil comes in to take over from 85 to 89. And unfortunately for you, that 85 season, he had some injuries and you just weren't the same guy, but you had a good bounce back year in 1986, another 1,000-yard rushing season for you. In fact, you were second in the conference, 24th in the country in rushing that year to earn AP honorable mention, All-America honors again, first team All-WAC. Just talk about, that bounce back year for you in 86 and how the team changed offensively under Jim Fossil from Chuck Stobart.
The difference between obviously Chuck Stobart and when out of high school, I was a student body right, student body left. That's why I was really considering going to USC, but they were like 12 deep in their running backs. So I came to Utah. Stobart gave me that opportunity to do what I did in high school, and it was very successful. Well, my sophomore year, I didn't really catch the ball out of the backfield. And so I had to learn a whole new system with Jim Fossil. And when I sat down in Jim's office, he told me, man, this is an ideal offense for your type of running style. You can catch 50. I want you to catch 50 balls out of the backfield and run for 1,000 yards. I said, hell right, let's do it. Well, first time I caught a ball right over the middle, boom, I got hit. And I think it was in Hawaii, I think it was by Al Noga. He was one of the very, very affluent defensive players for Hawaii, and it just dislocated my shoulder at that time. And I was out. I was out my sophomore year very, very early. And then I rehabbed that back. Maybe came back, and then I had a bad ankle injury. So it was an injury-prone year, and I've never had injuries in my life until that year. So I had to adjust to, catching the ball and running the ball and just adjust to that. But that was the right offense for the University of Utah. Coach brought a difference to the league, which it was a league that was changing. BYU was a pass offense, so we had to compete with them. It was no more of those option style. That was just going out the window. I think it was us and even Air Force was, the option style. But after all that, we started to compete. My second year, we went 8-4, even though I was injured. But Larry Egger and those guys came in and really put on a great competitive scene that year, and they did very well. Fossil's first year, very, very well.
Yeah, 5-3 in conference. And you mentioned the WAC at that time, you had BYU, but everyone else thought, well, if we're going to beat them, we got to be like them. So the passing offenses were first and foremost, and Fossil saw that went that way. And as you mentioned, 8 wins that first year when you were injured. So 86, you bounced back, and you talk about catching passes out of the backfield. You caught 21 passes that year for 200 yards. Your 21 catches were third best on the team, so they used you a lot back in that 86 season in terms of running and catching. You had a knee injury in 87 and came back as a fifth-year senior. Another almost 800-yard season, 32 catches that year with 3 touchdowns. You had 15 all that last year. Just talk about, again, after another injury when maybe some guys just don't bounce back. You did. You had a very good fifth year. Talk about the highlights from your 88 season as a senior.
That was a wonderful and difficult year because I had to come back within about 10 months after I blew out my knee. And that's another story. I think, the way these guys are faster and they're bigger and they're stronger is the way, and I credit the trainers for training the off-season programs now. Because when I grew up, we lifted just like the linemen lifted. Who's going to max out on the bench press and who's going to squat the most. And people like Jerry Rice and just different receivers who are not big and they're not just overpowering type guys, but they last for 20 years.
Right.
And it was the way that they worked out. I bench pressed almost 400 pounds on a frame that was, 5'8", 180 pounds. That was miraculous for a big guy who was going to block you, in this short distance type pushing. But it wasn't a great type of workouts for an elusive guy like who I was.
Right.
And so all I had was short twitch muscles, not fast twitch muscles. And that's what started a lot of injuries. So if any of the kids around here who are working or who are listening to this program, I always tell them, do not lift the heaviest weights in the room. Do not squat the heaviest weights. It's duration for your season. It's lasting. You want to do a lot of reps. You want to, and run up hills and really work the muscles for duration of your season and not for just the power of your seasons. And that's what's changed a lot. And I believe if I would have had my off-season workouts developed that way, I would have been still playing to this day. I'm a firm believer of that. But that 88 season, it was huge as far as the accomplishment of me getting back on the field as fast as I did. Although I didn't really play until I went in sparingly, but wasn't really ready to play until about my fourth or fifth game of that season.
Okay.
And that's when my legs started coming back. And unfortunately that season I ran about 700 yards after not really being ready the first 4 games. So it was a great accomplishment as far as myself being able to come back. And I tell you what, that was a very emotional season for us that we beat BYU. So
yes.
Really a lot of great accomplishments came out of that year. So we were really happy about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you put that in context because I was going to next. Back then, conditioning programs, rehabilitation from injury just wasn't anywhere near where it is right now. And for you to come back from that injury, a knee injury, as quickly as you did as a running back was pretty impressive. And then just to play it all, let alone run for another 748 yards and do what you did that 88 season was remarkable. And you mentioned the route of BYU, 57-28 the score. You had 4 touchdowns that day, tying the school record, and what a great way to wrap things up. You've referenced that BYU game several times as I've talked to you this summer, getting ready for the Hall of Fame banquet. Just talk about that BYU game and what it meant for the Utes to beat the Cougars as you wrapped up your career at Utah.
Well, I tell you one thing. I don't care who we would have played that day. I mean, the seniors in that locker room, if you would have been a fly on the wall, you would have seen and heard the intensity. There were people just in tears, just begging to get out on that field. I made a speech just before the game. I think a couple other senior linebackers made a speech, and it was so emotional. I mean, some guys were probably hitting their heads on the locker room door. We just were eager. And it could have been Ohio State or Notre Dame or any school that day. I believe we would have beat them. It just so happened to be BYU. And we knew the game plan that day. It was just an emotional day for us. And we went out there and the results were very, very great for us, obviously.
So you beat the Cougars in your final game as a Ute. That allowed the Utes to get 6 wins that year, going 4-4 in the WAC, which, again, at that time, that was a wonderful season for Utah football. But, Eddie, one of the best parts about that 88 years, you got a chance to come back and set the school record for rushing all-time at Utah, 3,219 yards, a mark that stood 31 years until Zach Moss broke that mark in 2019. Bill Marcroft broadcast the games for a long time, and he and I became good friends in our travels around the Mountain West Conference. And he said, you know what, Eddie Johnson's record, it's great, but people who weren't around then don't appreciate how great it was because, as I mentioned, you didn't have the line that we do now. You don't have the talent around you that some guys do now, and Zach had during his time. And to do what you did with the program at that point and have that record for rushing, again, 3,219 yards, stand up for 31 years. He goes, that's one of the greatest accomplishments in Utah football history. Eddie, as you look back,
wow,
put your mark into perspective and what it's meant to you to have that record for 31 years.
It was so wonderful to hear that because at the time that I did it, it wasn't much of a fanfare.
Yeah.
Those days we didn't have social media. We didn't have it. I think it might have been mentioned on the news that night, and nobody heard anything else about it. So it wasn't a big deal as it is today. It's because of social media. But I am so honored to have done that or have that accomplishment is because of all the great running backs that walked out of this facility. From the Dirty Bird Jamal Anderson,
Yep.
And Mike Anderson, Falamutu Malafala, Chris Brown, and just so many great guys, Moss, and gosh, I'm having a hard time remembering everybody, but it's just a great accomplishment, and it means a whole lot to me that I did that. At the time, I took it for granted myself also. It's just another thing that I had to do at the time, but now I really see the impact of it, and tip my hat off to Moss, because, man, hopefully it won't be another 31 years before his mark is broken, and that means you're going to have another great running back to come out of this area to be able to take care of that. But, I'm very, very happy that it happened. Absolutely.
There's something about the rushing career record, Eddie, that's different than passing and receiving. And I talked to different people, and okay, yes, when you're a quarterback, you need guys to catch. When you're a receiver, you need someone to throw it to you. When you're a running back, yes, you need your line, but the great rushers, the great runners create their own a little bit in terms of their moves, their vision, their sense of where the hole is, when the cut, and just desire not to go down. There's something about the rushing record that's different to me. Do you agree with that? And again, just to put into context what it's meant to you to have that record this long at the University of Utah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to go back to some of my heroes in running, from Gerald Sayers to Tony Dorsett to Jim Brown. I mean, it's almost like the long ball in baseball. Everybody loves the long ball, and those are the heroes in baseball. And football, it takes one play from a running back to get a 60, 70, 80 yarder run for a touchdown. So you're the long ball guy in football. And so, once you have a scat back like myself, I took pride in making the crowd go, ooh. I always wanted to hear, even though at the time he's saying downset HUD, a player never hears the crowd, but soon as the whistle is blown, you want to hear those cheers, and you want to hear, for my sake, ooh, did you see that?
Yeah.
That's what I spent all my life wanting people to do that. So I learned how to spin, jump over guys, and cut and juke you out, as we called it, juking. So they would miss you all the time. And once you have players like that, you will always be the highlight. And that's why it just seems like running backs are those players, and that's why they get most of the recognition. And you're absolutely right. It seems like they are more than receivers or quarterbacks, although quarterbacks make the most money.
They do, yes.
Running backs get the press. So that's what's nice about that.
Yeah, in your era, quarterbacks weren't the guys winning the Heisman. It was a running back almost every year. That was the featured position in college football before we went to the spread attacks and so forth. And again, the numbers you put up at that time, where the program was for Utah football at that time, like Bill Marcroft said, that's one of the greatest accomplishments in Utah football history that maybe was overlooked for a long time. We finally got you in the Hall of Fame. Again, your record set up for 31 years. Eddie, be honest, when Zach Moss broke that record in 2019, what was your reaction?
I was very, very pleased to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, only because I'm a huge Utah fan. I mean, I'm just a diehard. So anybody who breaks any record at the University of Utah, that's what records are for, to be broken. And so for him to come in and to do that, and for them to have the season that they had, it was just an honor to even be mentioned at that time, because he got a lot of fanfare because of social media, because of the day the times have changed. All the fanfare that he's got, my name was on ESPN.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? Here I am, 54 or 55 years old now, 55 now, and I'm still hearing my name on ESPN every time he plays.
Right.
and I'm on the ticker down below at the ticker board. Zach Moss just breaks Eddie Johnson, and my family goes, "That's you!"
There you go. Yeah.
I know. and even my kids who didn't even see me play, at the time, they had no idea who Dad is. I'm just Dad. They heard about me. They just didn't, they didn't really get the effect of it. But for them to be able to point at the television set and say, "Hey, look at there you are." It was that was even more of a blessing to me. So I was very, very happy for him. And for the next running back that comes out of there to break Zach's record, and unfortunately, and I owe my condolences to the family of the young man that was killed last year.
Ty Jordan.
But I tell you what, Ty Jordan, he could have been one of the guys who have done that, and that's unfortunate. We'll never know that, but he had the talent to do that. And we got some great running backs there, but I think the competition is so severe, so stiff. Not one of them is going to come out and be able to do what they're doing, because they're probably all going to get some time,
Right.
So it's kind of hard to break a record of that status when you have to share a lot of the runs, because nobody has broken out to who's going to be the guy right now.
No.
But I tell you what, it's to be broken, and I'm hopefully soon his will be broken again as well.
Yeah, you make a great point. To be a 4-year starter or a 4-year major player like you were, who knows? I mean, Ty Jordan, you're right. It's sadly just a tragic loss for the program to lose him in December. But I thought maybe he's a guy, even though he played a shortened freshman year, he could be a 4-year guy for us and maybe have a chance of that record that Zach Moss set. But again, to find a 4-year guy to get the carries to break those records that you and Zach put up there, it's going to be difficult. But, again, what a great run by you. 31 years, the all-time rushing leader at Utah. And at that point, the games weren't televised like they are now. So for you to become an honorable mention All-American, those were pretty high honors for a guy coming out of the WAC and Utah program. What a great career. And Eddie, you've done some great stuff since you left the U. I know you're involved in several programs and communities in Salt Lake and out in Santa Maria, California. Just talk about what you're doing now and how you're giving back to your communities.
Absolutely. I have a company called Golden Rule Mentors, and we're actually in a transition stage right now, just for what we're going to do, because I think we're doing a nonprofit. But what we have done over the years is work with just about every single nonprofit organization, from D&J's, Victory Harvest, Salvation Army, and so on. And we were, yes, we can say we helped. We administered probably over 500,000 pounds of food and items over the years that we have been involved in putting things together. Right now, I'm helping a company called D&J's Consulting and Supportive Services here in Santa Maria, California, where we do traditional housing and rehabilitations for people who are getting out of the prison system, and also for women who have been abused, finding housing for them and getting them back on their feet. And for the homeless, we're building a homeless shelter right now as we speak. Things prepared for that. So, yeah, I all my life, man, being the son of a pastor, and my mother and father are both pastors, and just humanitarian philanthropy has been just my DNA. It's just who I am, and I don't care about the money. I just want to help people, and that's what the talent that God has given me, and that's what I've been on this earth to do, and I try to do it as best I can.
Well, Eddie, you have lived an honorable life, and we hope to see you around for a long, long time. I'm not trying to make it sound like we're going to lose you soon.
No.
You're in great health, and a guy can still go out and tote the football quite a bit, I think. But you've done some wonderful things, and just so much fun to see guys like you who come through the University of Utah program, get their degrees, and move on to do things. It's not just successful in the career world. It's really giving back and making a difference in communities, and you've done that for a long time. And really just enjoy getting to know you, Eddie, this summer and this fall at the Hall of Fame banquet. And so happy to get you in finally, and appreciate your time coming on the program, Eddie.
Hey, thank you, Mike. And let me tell you something. You and your group are a class act, man. I have never felt like a superstar on the red carpet with you guys welcoming us there, and how you put the Hall of Fame on. That was a class act, man. And I want to tip my hat off to you, and thank you so much for all you guys have done, not only for the University of Utah and for other people, You guys are wonderful. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you. We've enjoyed having you around as well. And it's one of the biggest events we do all year, the Hall of Fame banquet. And a little bit different now. We've got a little more money to work with to do a high-class job for you guys. And glad you enjoyed it. And great catch up with you. And all the best to you, Eddie.
Hey, thank you, Mike. You have a great day, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right, you as well, Eddie. That's Eddie Johnson, the former all-time leading rusher in Utah history for 31 years. When we come back, we'll catch up with one of his teammates who has found a way to blend art and athletics. Former Utah wide receiver Greg Holder, our guest on Utes Insider, in just a moment.
Stay connected by searching for Utah Athletics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Now back to more Utes Insider, presented by Pepsi.
And welcome back to the show. It's brought to you by University of Utah Health, the official healthcare provider for the Utes and you. There's only one you. Be treated that way. Visit uvuhealth.org/Utes. Well, pleased to be joined now by another one of our greats from the mid-'80s of Utah football history, Greg Holder, a JUCO wide receiver from El Camino, who came in and played with Eddie Johnson, who was the all-time leading rusher. And I met Greg when he came back with Eddie for our Hall of Fame weekend a few weeks ago and got to talk about Greg's current career, which just really fascinated me. So I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show. And here he is, Greg Holder from Point Loma, California. Greg, thanks for hopping on.
Hey there. How you doing?
Doing well.
What's going on, Mike?
Doing well, working through another podcast and fun catch up with some guys who played for the program before it became what it is, and but played such a big part in that. And I'll talk to you about that a little bit. But Greg, you and Eddie came in, both guys in the mid-'80s. This wasn't the program that it is now. It wasn't in the Pac-12. In fact, it was just a mediocre WAC program.
Yeah, we were the WAC.
Yeah, back
we were
before the
WAC.
Mountain West. And so I always ask guys from that time, what was it that brought you here? I mean, there wasn't what we've got now in terms of the conference and the tradition and 10-win seasons. You guys had to come here almost on a leap of faith. So for you, Greg, coming from El Camino, what drew you to the University of Utah at that time?
Well, it was the offer of the full ride scholarship and Jim Fosso giving us the opportunity to come as a package deal. The offer went like Jack Riley got the position as offensive coordinator, and Jim Fosso said, "Hey, listen, I want your 4 best guys you got." And at that time, me, Larry Egger, Lauren Ritchie, and Clyde French were basically the hub of the offense, and we were the ones that were doing all the scoring and making things happen down at Elko. And so, we come from that old traditional San Francisco 49er run and shoot offense, and Jack Riley brought that to Utah, and Jim Fosso bought into it, and we were running and gunning, and we built something that was special. And we like to think that at that particular time, when we opened up our passing game, that opened up a lot for the U. Eddie Johnson, stock blocking for that guy downfield was just amazing. Fred Graves was one of those guys that prided himself on making sure that his receivers did their assignment.
Yes.
And so being under him, it was just a world to be there and to our education and participate in a great school,
Yeah. Some of those names you mentioned, Jack Riley, Fred Graves, and obviously Jim Fosso, the head coach. He was a guy who came in and, at that time, BYU was the dominant program in the WAC, and they were throwing the ball around, and some other programs did the same. That was just kind of what you had to do to be competitive in the WAC at that time.
Absolutely.
So, Greg, you come in from El Camino and a Southern California kid. You come to Utah where there's snow, there's colder weather. What was your first impressions of Salt Lake City and the U campus when you came here?
Well, the first impression that I had of Salt Lake was, wow, exactly. It was amazing. It was, that the mystique of the unknown of what is this about, you know, and I see the snow-capped mountains on the Wasatch Front, and it was just amazing, to land and then to see the temple at that particular time when it was snowing, it was amazing. It was like Alice in Wonderland for me, coming from South Central. I'd never been in snow before, when I found out who my roommate was, which was Kurt Jones, rest in peace. He passed away some years ago. But we were jumping out of windows into this thick snow, man, this powder. And it was just a wonderful time for us as young men. And like I said, Utah is where I became a man, because my senior year, I got a chance to live off campus, and I was roommates with another wide receiver from Southern California, James Hardy. He was number 6, and good friend of mine over the years. We battled in high school together. I went to Carson, he went to Gardena. But to come full circle and end up in Utah, there was a patch of us, that came to Utah, and we tried to make a difference for the program, and the program made a difference for us. The establishment, the teachers, the professors, the coaches. Most of the coaches were like our fathers.
Yeah.
Away from home. And so having a program like that definitely impacted my life. And Jim Fossil had a saying, which was "Man in the Mirror." Now, I don't know if you remember Michael Jackson making that song,
sure
"Man
do.
in the Mirror,"
yes.
But I think Jim Fossil said it before Michael Jackson wrote that song. But I'm telling you, we used that and we fought. And even though we took one on the chin from BYU, like our guys recently did, we that game, I felt we got stolen from us. I think Earl Tucker ran back 2 punt returns or a kickoff return, and we were in the snow down in Provo. And I'll never forget, how he made us hold our heads up high, because that in-state rival game is for real till this very day. And that was one of the biggest games that impacted my career as a collegiate player,
It was the game then. It's still a big game now. It's a little bit different. The Utes and the Cougars are in different conferences, and BYU and Independent before they go to the Big 12, but it's still a huge, huge game. But then, it was about bragging rights. It was about bragging rights in state. And at that point, BYU was, had the upper hand on things, but things turned around and Ron McBride. We'll talk about him in just a bit. But, Greg, looking back at your career, 85, 86, Jim Fossil got the Utes to an 8-win season, 5 wins in league in 85. Just a 2-year career as you came from El Camino JC. Some highlights from your career, Greg, as you look back during your time with the Utes. What stands out to you as you look back?
Air Force, my Air Force game, my senior year. I remember my junior year, I dropped, I was wide open, and they wanted to redshirt me. I wanted to play. And Jack Riley said, "Listen, you can redshirt. You can get an extra year and it'll be great for you." I was like, "No, I came here to play."
Yep.
And so Jim Fossil, he pushed that. So he put me in rotation, and I was up against some great guys. T. Shaw, we had Carl Harry, and Carl Harry was the youngest of the crew, of the receiver crew, but he was on your heels, and so I had to battle with a lot of guys. And Lauren Ritchie was our go-to guy, period. He had hands like Bolitnikov, but the Air Force game my senior year, I really did them in. 2 big bombs. I think I had like 126 yards, a couple touchdowns, and it was just great. When you have the opportunity, you gotta make that impact. And I was able to do that. And they fit me in the offense, and I served my purpose. Yeah. And so just being there and getting an education, it took me quite a ways, and it helped me to be able to do what I'm doing today as an artist. And I didn't finish. I was about 15 units short, but my wife is looking at me like, "I want you to finish." And so I think we're gonna make a way to make that happen, So I'm looking forward to it. And coming back and working with Coach McBride's foundation has been just amazing. Hooking up with old timers like Kurt Vetter. Kurt's down, and he used to be one of our linebackers at the U, and now that's a guy you need to interview. That Kurt Vetter's doing some great things.
I've heard that as well. Yes, he is on my list of guys to get to at some point.
Yes, absolutely. Get to him.
Greg, before I talk to you about your artwork, which I'm fascinated by, and what's come up with the Ron McBride Foundation Gala coming up next week, but Ronnie Mack was not your position coach. You had Jim Fossil and Fred Graves and Jack Riley were kind of the main guys that you worked with. But, Ron coached the offensive line. So he was with the Utah program and under Wayne Howard from 77 to 82, left for a job, I believe, at Wisconsin, came back from 85 to 86. And, I talked to Ryan Mack about a year ago at this time, and he was a guy who really saw Utah for what it could become, if that makes sense. His take was a lot of guys came in here as head coaches, and Utah was a stepping stone job for what was next. They were going to come in 3-4 years, win some games, and move on to greener pastures. And Ron McBride thought, you know what, this could be a destination job if you approach it the right way. And what he saw was guys like you would come from California. At that time, about a third of the roster were JUCO kids, and about 2/3 were from California. That was before Utah high school football was what it is now. So Utah lived on California kids. And Ron McBride said, you know what, we can get players there, and we can win some games and do some things. And he thought, you know what, I'm going to go there and make that a destination job, which he did. And he changed the face of Utah football because he got that, but he also got family. And to this day, as a family guy, it's always been that way with him. And he came in and really brought that family culture to Utah football. So, Greg, when you played for the program at that time, I know Ron wasn't your position coach, but you were around him.
Yeah.
Talk about Ron McBride then and just what you've seen from him in terms of what he did with the program in the years to come.
Just an amazing human being, heart of gold, always concerned about the player athlete, the student athlete, making sure that you're doing what you're supposed. Ronnie McBride would go to visit guys in class, and you didn't want that. He always reminded me of the Woody Hayes of the old days.
Okay.
Now, if you know anything about Woody Hayes, sometimes he gets a black eye, but I'm gonna tell you, Ron McBride could shake a kid up in the right way to where you would never want to be out of line doing anything till this very day. That's how much respect my former teammates, guys that played for him, that's how they feel about him. We love Ron McBride because of his caring heart, and what he's doing with his foundation is just amazing. The youth that he's working with these schools. I get a chance to dive in with my work and kind of help him raise money through people buying my art pieces at his auction, and so it's been a great time for us to reunite. And we was just at a golf tournament couple days ago. I believe it was Monday. Yeah, Monday. We had a golf tournament down in Murray.
Yep.
And a lot of the older guys showed up. Eddie Lewis, who was one of our other running backs that was back there with EJ. Steve Cox. These guys are still close to Coach, and a lot of the guys that even live out of state, they try to come and make it and support what he's doing because of what he's giving back, man. And, love you, man, is a real thing, because he was saying that back when I was a player, student athlete.
Yeah.
Love you, man. And so I ended up doing a piece to honor Coach, and not knowing what was going to happen. They put the Love You, Man logo in the auction, and it raised $5,200.
Wow.
And so we were just like, hey, well, let's just keep going.
Right.
So my wife was able to work out a nice arrangement with the organization, with the foundation. And when they call on me, I show up. I show up with some goods for them, and they'll tell me what they would like to see me make, and I'll put this stuff together, and we'll get it on the auction lot. And there's so many great people that love him, that support him. They come out and they buy the art, and it's for the kids, and it's working. And we're going to continue the blueprint of what we're doing. I planned on, expanding more of my athletic pieces with some of the legends and the big names that have played for the University of Utah. got a chance to hook up with Alex Smith and his wife and my wife. They hit it off. They both went to culinary school. My wife's a chef and, she loves cooking. She finished top 3 in her class as a graduate, but I do all the cooking at home. I don't know how that worked out like that. I think most men do,
Hey, you can't afford her. Greg, you can't afford her. That's the deal.
I can't. I really can't. So, I'll put together a goulash, for her, and she loves it. But
that's awesome.
It's been a great time of reuniting with the university. Our new president just met my wife at the gala. Then they were together. My wife sat with them at the San Diego State game. And so we're building to also help Eddie with his mental health foundation and charity that he's going to be working with my wife. My wife's going to be working with him. We're going to do more images of Eddie to raise awareness and, just get the juices flowing and just bringing some of my art to Utah for the university, for the athletic program, not just football. I mean, there's so many ways that we can do this thing. And so I want to be able to play my part. And I think that the art is going to do that.
So the Ron McBride Foundation Legacy Gala takes place Saturday, October 2nd at the downtown Marriott City Creek. If you want more information, log on to the ronmcbridefoundation.org, and just a great event that you're involved in. And the reason why you're involved, Greg, is your artwork. And you told me the story at the Hall of Fame event. You met Alex Smith and everyone who was there for that weekend. And I know you've done some work in clothing and sketch art, but glass art, and tying that in with sports. You ran track in high school. You played football, obviously, and played for you, then more with the Raiders for a bit after college. But you've tied it all together, and you told me it's been about 21 years you've been involved in this. So just tell us what you're doing in the art world and some of your major projects you've been involved in.
Yeah, so some of the major projects that I've been involved in were individuals, legends in sports, period. Mike Tyson was my first big hit as a commission. I did a piece on Mike Tyson knocking out Trevor Berbick, full extension, sold for $25,000 to a private buyer. And I've done work for Jeannie Buss in Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Kings. Luke Robitaille hired me to do a few pieces for some of his guys, Jonathan Quick. And so when that happens, you end up getting the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Magic Johnsons. So these people have embraced my artwork here in Los Angeles, and then it just ties over into someone else coming to their homes or at their event. They buy the art piece, and next thing I know, I'm doing another great figure, to do the legacy pieces series of these guys that's retiring from their leagues and they don't know what to do for a fundraiser. They call me, they call my wife, and we get on putting together an agenda of what makes sense and what will make the dollars to help their programs, And so their likeness, which is a big deal right now, especially in college with the students getting awarded, the opportunity to get paid for their likeness.
Right.
That's where my business fits in well with something that they would like to do, And so I do one of a kinds. It's all carved in raw glass. The glass is raw, it's not tempered, and it's called blasting. I'm not an etch artist, but I actually carve into the glass to create the image. Everything is hand cut. And then when the painting process comes, I paint with toothpicks. So I don't use brushes or anything like that, and, for 21 years of doing it, after 5 years, I was deemed a master sandblast artist by the Beverly Hills Art Society. I don't even really know how that came up. All I know is I was receiving an award for artists, and that's what it was.
Wow.
So I've been blessed to be able to be in my field and know what works and what won't work, And so the stuff that we're doing, the temple that's coming to McBride's Foundation event for his legacy dinner, and the arches. We're expecting a really good crowd, and we're hoping that a lot of people are going to love what it is and take it home with them.
Wow, that's just great stuff. So again, the gala coming up for the McBride Foundation October 2nd, and your stuff will be there. Greg, you mentioned some just big time names in pro sports and so forth. Who's been one of your more interesting clients and why during your time as a glass artist?
I would probably say Magic Johnson.
Okay.
Magic Johnson, I kept running into him after I was commissioned to do a piece for him. And then he wanted another piece. And I was doing a Super Bowl event when I believe it was Seattle played Pittsburgh and Detroit. Do you remember that Super Bowl?
I remember that Super Bowl, yes. I'm not sure where it was, but I remember Pittsburgh and Seattle playing, yes.
Yeah, they played in Detroit. And I got to do the bus. And I got to do an 8-piece show at a nightclub. Well, the nightclub was owned by a ex-teammate of mine that went to school with me at El Camino College. This guy flew me out. I crated up the pieces, and I came out. And guess who was the celebrity guest appearance that showed up? Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson. So I had the Jerome Bettis piece was in his private suite. And so when he got there, he was like, hey, where did this come from? This guy, I know his work. Get him over here. And I got word, and I got a chance to come back and sit with Magic. And he talked about how he loved what I created for him. And, Magic ended up signing some of his pieces later on throughout the years. I would run into him at different events, and he's always been gracious to me and welcoming me. And has also passed on business to me. So, I'm forever grateful to guys like that. They just help your business to grow and helps you to feed your family.
Right.
But I've done so many greats. Smokey Robinson. I've done the #1 heart surgeon in the world, which is Dr. Gerald Pohos from USC Medical. And that was all through the American Heart Association hired me to do their black tie dinner, and to do a legend like Smokey Robinson, but to do the #1 heart surgeon, that was a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
So, Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of my recipients of me doing a commission piece for him. It just goes on and on. I can go all the way over to Australia.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's just pretty extensive. I think I've done way over 3,000 pieces in my career, and I don't have all of the pictures, footage of, or documentation, because back then I wasn't thinking about promoting. I was just doing art, and now you can get in with PR people and marketing, and they want to do photo shoots and they want to do all these different things. I just want to do the art for people that love something different. My work lights up. I use LEDs. I think I'm the first artist to ever do that. And I continue to grow with the LED industry by, incorporating lighting in my artwork. So you get a remote control that can change colors. It'll do some different things. And now it's leading me to be into technology with my artwork. So I got some up and coming things that I'm going to really blow some people away with when it comes to AR codes and NFTs and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing to grow the business. And, my wife, she stays putting me in the right position, and I just do the work.
That's great stuff. What a career. 21 years you've done this. And,
yes,
Greg, I understand your piece, your glass art piece on Eddie Johnson's going to Lumpy's Bar and the Salt Lake metro area sometime soon. And you'll be involved with the Ron McBride Foundation Gala coming up next weekend. Is there a website where people can go check out photos of your work?
Yes, they can. They can go to iconsbyholder.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, it was just a chance meeting the two of us had at the Hall of Fame event. You were there with Eddie and talking to everyone else. And once you and I talked, and I talked to your wife, I'm like, this is going to be a guy I need to talk to down the road. And I appreciate you hopping on. It's just fun to talk to guys.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's fun to talk to guys who were here before we became what we are now, but also have them tell a story about what they've done with their lives. And it's great to see guys like yourself get a chance to go to college. And even though, like you said, the degree was not finished, but your experience here helped make you who you are. And you've had a wonderful life. And Greg, great to catch up with you.
All right. Hey, Mike, thank you. I appreciate you, man, and all the best to you, man, in the podcast.
All right.
And all your other endeavors.
Thank you so much. That's Greg Holder, wide receiver for the Utes from 85 to 86. Back to wrap up our show in just a moment.
For more on Utah athletics, including up-to-date schedules and ticket information, log on to utahutes.com. Now back to more of Utes Insider presented by Pepsi.
Today's show being brought to you by Pepsi, the official soft drink of Utah Athletics. My goodness, that was a lot of fun, folks. Those guys, you can just tell they have a deep love for Utah football, the university, their teammates and coaches to this day. Eddie Johnson, a two-time All-American running back who played from 84 to 88. He held the school rushing record for 31 years until Zach Moss overtook him in 2019, but still Eddie, no question, one of the all-time greats to play here. And Greg Holder, one of those guys who came in from the JUCO ranks from El Camino, played just a couple years from 85 to 86, but made an impact during his time with the team. And again, those guys just love this place to this day, and they love Ron McBride, who is having a big event coming up, the Ron McBride Legacy Foundation Gala, October 2nd at the downtown Marriott City Creek Center here in Salt Lake City. And you can go to the ronmcbridefoundation.org for details. They'll have some great things there for sale, including Greg Holder's glass art that will be for sale, and he makes some impressive stuff, so go check it out if you can. And thanks to those guys. A lot of fun hearing some stories about their time here in the mid to late 80s when this program was really taking off to become what it has become today under Ron McBride and Urban Meyer and now Kyle Whittingham. Well, that will do it for today's show. Thanks to Mike Gillen, and as always, for his technical expertise. I'm Mike Lagasholt. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Utes Insider presented by Pepsi. To hear more episodes of this show and other Utah athletics podcasts, search for them on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.